Hey everyone, my name is Noel and welcome back to another Terraria video. A long time ago at this point, I made a video where I showcased all of the zenith weapons I made for the different classes in Terraria. Now that was like almost a year ago at this point, so not only have I increased in my skill level as a programmer, but you guys have also given me a lot of feedback. So since then I made a lot of changes to those zenith weapons, and I know I said I wouldn't do this, but I just thought, screw it, we're going all in, and I made TERRA crafting trees for each of those weapons. Yeah, there is one exception though, and that is the whips for the summoning class, and that's just because there are going to be a lot of whips added to Terraria, so I thought I would wait, and also I'm just really lazy and I don't want to do that. So without further ado, let's showcase these weapons. Future Mint Gaming here. I totally forgot to say this, but the mod is called the Tesseract Mod. All right. Go check it out. So first of all, when crafting the Terra Blade, you will need a True Knight's Edge and a True Excalibur. And the True Knight's Edge is crafted from the Knight's Edge, and the Knight's Edge is crafted from an Underworld weapon, a Dungeon weapon, a Jungle weapon, and an Evil Corruption weapon. So I try to keep the theme the same throughout all of these different weapons, but I also got a little bit creative. So first up, let's start with the melee class, and all we have to go through are the yo-yos. So the first one is the Knight Sling, and I got really lucky. Weapons exist for all the categories I mentioned: Jungle, Evil, Dungeon, and then also Underworld. And what's cool about this one is this is actually exclusive to pre-hard mode, so make sure you get this while you're in pre-hard mode. Otherwise, this will just be unobtainable. But yeah, I mean, it's nothing really special. It will just inflict Shadow Flame, but yeah, it's still a yo-yo. All right, next up, once you reach hard mode and beat some mechanical bosses, you can make the True Knight's Sling, which just has a different animation on it, but also just does way more damage and inflicts more debuffs. And of course, you'd make that the same way you'd make the True Knight's Edge. You use the Knight's version and then also the Souls. Now normally in this game, when you beat a mech boss, you use the hallowed bars to make the Excalibur, so you can get a nice melee upgrade. However, the Yelities, or however you say it, actually drops from jungle enemies after a mech boss is defeated. So I thought, well, that could replace the Excalibur because it's the same requirement, and then we can just make a true Yelities version, which is basically just an upgraded Yelities, of course, but it also drops from jungle enemies. So yeah, you kind of have to do some farming, but who doesn't love farming? So yeah, yo-yo class isn't really too special, but the Terra Throw, which is the next weapon, does offer something unique. As you can see, once it hits enough enemies, it will spawn some stars, which just do extra damage, so it's pretty good for dealing with lots of enemies in an area. On top of that, I think it looks cool, right? So the melee class was pretty short. Let's move on to the magic class. So first up, we're starting with the magic staff. So the first one is the Holy Caster, which basically just shoots a projectile. But what's cool about this projectile is the color changes depending on the world evil you're in. So I am in a crimson world, as you can see. Actually, wait, that's interesting. There's corruption and crimson there, but the base world is crimson, so the projectile is red. However, once I move to this world which is corruption and I shoot this projectile, it is now purple. Yeah, isn't that awesome? There's only one recipe for this. However, the ingredients are any evil bar or any evil item, so this can be, of course, replaced with crimson variants. Next up is the Cursed Staff. Now this all right, I know this looks ugly. However, I actually took this inspiration from Pixel Gun 3D. It is the jungle weapon, and it shoots a electric ball that on impact will shoot into other electric things which do damage. This thing is really loud, so I'll probably change the sound before publishing it, but it also inflicts the poison debuff. I mean, as you can tell, I've made some pretty cool projectiles, but things are going to get cooler, I promise. Once you obtain those two weapons, and then also a magic missile and a flame lash, you can make the Knight's Rod. This shoots a projectile which homes into the mouse cursor and then can be controlled, so you can actually rack up quite a bit of damage. The only downside is you have to have good aim. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Not too unique, but yeah, I like it. I definitely got lazy with the True Knight's Rod. It just shoots cursed flame projectiles, but it still does quite a bit of damage. And I thought that since you'd be fighting Plantera with this weapon, it'd actually be a pretty good option for Plantera because the projectiles ricochet. Now, when crafting the Terra Torch, which is the Terra version of this, you'll be using a Venom Staff. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention is instead of just using a Broken Hero Sword, I decided to use drops that drop after Plantera that still relate to the weapon. So you'd be getting like any Dungeon Sorcerer Staff, which is not just this thing. I forgot it's a Shadow Beam Staff. It could be the Inferno Fork, or it could be the other one that homes. But yeah, anyways, you'll be using this Venom Staff, and that's just because it's crafted the same way you would craft a true Excalibur. So yeah, I just thought might as well use the Venom Staff. Okay, the Terra Torch I think is pretty cool. It basically shoots 2 spheres that have like that cool like pattern animation thing. And then of course they have really cool impact design. And then also on impact there will be a star that spawns in that when it shrinks, it will then pop back up and do damage. So it doesn't do damage right away, but if enemies stay in the same spot, you can do some extra damage. I think this is pretty cool, but don't worry. If you don't think it's cool, there will be some cooler weapons. All right, next up we'll be moving on to the magic books. So the first one is the Stinger Storm, and this actually drops from jungle slimes. So I thought I'd get really creative and quirky and just make it so you basically have the jungle slime attack. So pretty cool. Looks like it's not actually adding the poison buff, so I am gonna have to go into my code and fix that before publishing this mod. But yeah, nothing really too fancy, but still pretty cool, and it's pretty good for early game. The next weapon is the Purple Heart, which drops from Corruption and Crimson enemies. And as you can tell, I got kind of lazy by just combining the evils into one weapon. So yeah, this is it. Just does this. It's basically just a worse Shadow Flame Hextall, but I still like it. Once you collect those 2 weapons, a Water Bolt and a Demon Scythe, you can craft the Knight's Tome. Now, if you don't think that these weapons have been unique at all, here's where I think things start to get pretty unique. So this weapon, its damage, size, immunity frames, and just overall performance depend on how close you are to the projectile. If I move this away from my screen, you can see that it shrinks. If I stand all the way over here in this graveyard biome and then shoot this target dummy, you can see I'm doing 50-ish damage per second. However, if I move right up next to it and then start shooting it, you can see that it actually has a way bigger hitbox. But if I just target one dummy, we're up to 500-ish, 400-ish damage per second, 500, around there. So it encourages the player to play a little bit more aggressive as a mage and do some extra damage by getting closer to your target. Now, the True Knight's Tome is essentially the same thing, but with like on crack cocaine. It's just way better. When crafting the Terra Tome, which is the Terra weapon for the magic books, I decided to make just a single true Excalibur-ish type weapon. And that's just because there are already magic books you can get in hard mode, so I thought you might as well just combine them and make a single weapon. And this is called the Shatterpoint, which isn't really too special, but I think it's actually pretty cool. Basically, it shoots a crystal that splits into other projectiles that do damage, and I believe it also can inflict the Ichor debuff. So it's kind of hard to show because I mean those target dummies are so close together, but I mean it can rack up some pretty good damage. But its range is kind of limited. I mean, as you can see, the projectiles do split at a certain point, so just gotta keep that in mind. The Terra Tome, however, is pretty freaking cool. It shoots a flame barrage, and I think it's sick. I think it's freaking. I mean, this thing just lights up enemies. Actually, I'm not gonna say this is the favorite weapon I made, but it's got to be one of the favorite weapons that I've made so far. I just think it's really cool, even though it's super simple. All right, well now we're gonna move on to the ranged weapons. Now, there are a lot of bows that exist. However, there wasn't a dungeon bow, so I made a bone bow. It's very straightforward. It just turns wooden arrows into bone arrows. Yeah. Once you get the bee's knees, a demon bow, the bone bow, and a molten fury, you can craft the knight's longbow. So this is a little bit different than most bows. It actually shoots a burst of arrows. So as you can see, burst. Yeah, pretty cool. Now, of course, those arrows depend on whatever arrows you have in your inventory. So if you had venom arrows, it'd be that. If you had holy arrows, it would be that. So of course you can boost your damage by picking different arrows. The True Knight's longbow is almost the same thing, except it also has a chance to shoot either Ichor arrows, or sorry, not Ichor arrows. It has a chance to shoot cursed arrows or venom arrows. So you basically are just gonna be doing extra damage. To craft the Terra Talon bow, I know. All right, I tried to make all of the Terra weapons start with a T. So we have like the Terra Throw, the Terra Torch, Terra Tome. And so I got the Terra Talon. I know it's cringe. All right, just bear with me. But anyways, to craft that, you need a Chlorophyte shot bow, which is basically just a Chlorophyte weapon. So I'm like, yeah, sure, that can replace the true Excalibur. Why not? I also think the projectiles on this thing are really cool. It just turns all arrows into Terra arrows, which just have really good piercing, and they do quite a bit of damage. And it will just shoot a random amount. It's not the same amount every time, I believe. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be random. Yeah, that was 2. That was 2. That was 2. That was 3. And that actually takes inspiration from the chlorophyte shot bow, which shoots a random number of projectiles. So, yeah, this thing does quite a bit of damage. I think it's pretty freaking sick. And my damage is pretty inconsistent between classes because I've just been using solar armor the whole time. So this might be a good time to say I am going to rely on you guys for feedback on how I need to balance these weapons. So yeah, test this mod out. Leave your thoughts down in the comments. I would really appreciate it. Okay, let's move on to the guns. Now this, I think that the Knight's guns for this class are really sick. So to make the Knight's 6-shooter, you need a boomstick, which comes from the jungle, a musket, which comes from the corruption or crimson, and this will change depending on your world, and then a phoenix blaster, which comes from both the dungeon and the underworld. So basically, it's just like it sounds. It shoots a burst of 6 bullets in a rapid succession. Boom. 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 But the bullets also ricochet, so yeah, they're somewhat unique, okay? If you don't think that's cool, well, the True Knight 6-shooter is way cooler because there's 2 of them. 2 up? Anyways, the first one has purple accents, the second one has green accents, and that determines the type of bullet you're shooting. The purple one will shoot ricocheting shadow flame bullets. The green one will shoot piercing cursed flame bullets. So you can do quite a bit of damage with this thing. I think it's really sick. Yeah, I spent a long time on this, so you better like it. Then to craft the Terra turret, you need something called the Giga Shark. Now, I thought this was cool because first you have the mini shark, then you have the mega shark, and then I thought, well, since you're making a Terra thing, you have mega and then Terra. So what would go in the middle? Giga. Now this is a play on like the bite sizes, you know, for computers. Am I that big of a nerd? So you have Mega, then Giga, then Terra. Isn't that freaking hilarious? Oh my gosh. Yeah. Anyways, I don't think this showcase is gonna go well because I think I actually changed the code to make it so it won't work with target dummies. But basically, it will shoot a bullet that has a chance to bounce between targets, which is basically just chain damage. And yeah, it looks like it doesn't work because they're target dummies, so let me spawn in some NPCs. Okay, there's 2 skeletons right there, so the damage should bounce. Yeah, it does bounce between targets. So yeah, it's just some chain damage. Pretty cool. I'm pretty proud of this. So since I made a Giga Shark, I also made a Peta Shark, which drops from Duke Fishron. It shoots a stream of bullets and then also bubbles. So does this weapon imply that I might make a Zenith class specifically for the mini shark? Yeah, I mean, maybe. I don't know. I might as well. Okay, but anyways, I want to showcase the Terra turret, which basically just spawns a turret above the player's head, which shoots a stream of bullets, a very, very fast stream of bullets. Basically, the fire rate increases as you go up, so yeah. And then, of course, it can be whatever bullet you want. I think it's pretty cool. I hope you do too. Alright guys, we're on to the last class, and this class is by far the coolest, and I spent the most time on it, so I really hope you guys like it. So the Hornet Staff spawns like an enemy that exists in the game, so I decided to do that for both the Creeper Staff and the Dark Caster Staff. So the Creeper Staff spawns a Creeper to fight for you, which behaves just like the Creeper in the Crimson. So the Brain of Cthulhu has these Creepers that will hang around the boss, and they'll go like back and forth and back and forth. They don't like move around freely. I mean, they do, but as you can see, they move in straight line patterns, and they'll hover around the owner or whatever, and then they'll target in, and then they do kind of move freely, but it's in kind of line patterns. So I decided to take inspiration from that, and that is what the Creeper Staff Creeper does. It will move in line formations, and yeah, just attack your enemies. And of course, you can have a lot of them. And also, the color, what you may notice is the color is orange or red, and same with those eyes. And that will also change depending on the world evil. They'll be purple on corruption worlds. So yeah, I think it's pretty cool. So in somewhat similar of a fashion, I made the Dark Caster Staff, which spawns a Dark Caster to fight for you. It's not actually a sentry, it counts as a minion. But yeah, you can just spawn as many minion slots as you have for these guys. And similar to the Dark Caster, it will it will shoot 3 water sphere projectiles and then teleport. So if I spawn a skeleton here, it shoots 3 water spheres at the direction and then teleports. So you got to make sure you have blocks around you that they can teleport to, because I've done a lot of testing with it, and they should only teleport if there are available objects. Otherwise, they'll just teleport to the player like you can see here. It's almost the same exact AI as the vanilla code, and I didn't even look at the vanilla code. So you gotta pay some respects to me, bro. Next up, we have the Knights Legatus, or I don't actually know how you say that. But basically, it will summon a crescent moon to fight for you, and the moons have 2 phases. The first stage, it will latch on and deal damage, and the second stage, it will dash and move way faster and deal extra damage. So I will spawn this thing in, and as you can see, this is what it looks like. Let me spawn in a skeleton. So as you can see, it's latching on, doing some damage, and then the second phase should happen any second, hopefully before it kills it. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, it deals extra damage and moves way faster. Here, I'll spawn in an Angry Nimbus. It has way more health, so you guys can see what it does. There is the second phase there. It moves way faster, deals more damage, and keep in mind, it will be doing damage in a way bigger area since it moves faster. I think this thing's sick. I really like it. It's fun. Next up, once you get to hard mode and you beat your first mechanical boss, you can make the Holy Commander. Now this, I decided to get really creative and make it more of a defensive minion. So instead of just using the same minion and using a lot of them, you guys can actually pair this with the damage minion. So it does attack and it does do damage. However, it's not a lot of damage, so it's definitely going to be more of a defensive minion. And what do I mean by that? Well, let me show you. So I'm going to spawn in this dude here, and as you can see, it's attacking it. A pretty cool attack, of course. Hopefully you like that attack. Hopefully it doesn't kill it before it switches. Oh, it's going to totally kill it. Dang it. So it will do damage for a specific period of time, and it's actually a random period of time, but after doing damage, it will swap phases, and it will go to give the player buffs. Oh, there we go. It swapped phases. So the attack is orange, and then the buff is yellow, and unfortunately, the thing went out of range, so it's not into its aggressive mode, but it will buff the player. I believe, off the top of my head, it's Iron Skin, Swiftness, and Regeneration. Regeneration, Swiftness, Iron Skin, oh, and Rage. Okay. But what you may notice is it will also give these holy buffs, which are further increases to these buffs. And basically, those will only be applied if you already have the lesser version of that buff applied. So as you can see, you can get quite a bit of buffs. The true Holy Commander will spawn a buffed version of those summons that I just showed you. They'll do more damage and stuff, but they'll also give you not only... Actually, no, they don't give better buffs, but they give more buffs. So you can also get, I think... Is it Wrath that increases damage? You can get Endurance and then also Life Force. So you can just get way more buffs. So let me see. Buff me. All right, we got... Yeah, there's Wrath. There's Endurance. There's Holy Wrath. There's Life Force. We might even get Holy Life Force. Heck yeah. As you can see, my health went up. And then it should go back down. Yep. Okay, cool. We're all working properly. So yeah, I think that's freaking sick. And I think it also offers more variety in your playthroughs. Similar to how that is just a buffed version of the Holy Commander. The True Knights Legatus is a buffed version of the Crescent Moon. If I spawn in a Paladin here, you can see that this is just a dashing phase, which does quite a bit of damage. Actually, it's not a lot of damage right now because, I mean, I don't have my correct equipment on. But this is actually a different dashing phase. What will happen during this phase is it will very, very rapidly bounce between enemies. Now, I made this way before Marvel Rivals came out, all right? Just to be clear. But this functions pretty much exactly the same as Moon Knight's attacks, where it's a moon thing that will bounce rapidly between enemies. So let me spawn in another Paladin, and as you can see, it just bounced very rapidly between them. So hopefully you can see how this can do quite a bit of freaking damage. Yeah. And then you can combine those and a pygmy staff to make the Terra Totem. Please forgive the very, very bad design. Alright, I tried. But this summons a Tiki Spirit to fight for you. And as you can see by the description, it consumes all minion slots, and the strength of the minion is dependent on how many minion slots are consumed. So right now I have 3, which is level 1. So the dude's tiny. He's very tiny, not very great. However, if I swap to Spooky Armor and also equip some extra stuff here, I should have the next threshold, or actually the max threshold, which I believe off the top of my head is 6+ or 7+. Maybe I should put that in the description for you guys' convenience. But yeah, now the dude's way bigger. He's way bigger. And also, his attacks change depending on how many minion slots. And I don't just mean they do more damage. I mean, like, the attacks can entirely change. So maybe go give it a whirl for yourself. I don't want to spoil everything, but I will show the max performance. So here's one of the phases. It will shoot a spear at the enemy, and it will rapidly do melee attacks. And then also those attacks have a chance to heal the player. Here is another attack. It's the dagger storm. It will shoot a dagger, and then that dagger, once it hits an enemy, will spawn other daggers to lock in and do extra damage. This is another attack here. It shoots those like cool little things that move in a curvy fashion towards your target. My descriptions are just on point. However, on top of that, it also shoots homing projectiles. They're kind of hard to see, but yeah, they just do extra damage, so pretty freaking cool. Now, because it decided to skip the whips, I kind of wanted to still make something. So I made something called the TERRA Trident, which, if you guys noticed, during that melee class, it would shoot a spear, and whatever target that spear hit, that would be its melee frenzy target. So this trident just shoots that Terra Spear for you. As you can see, it will mark an enemy, and marked enemies will send the Terra Spirit into a melee frenzy, which will heal the player for 10% of the damage dealt. And then it will also mark enemies like a whip would. So I got unlucky. It started in that phase, so yeah. Oh, okay, we're in the other phase. So now if I throw this, it changes to the melee phase. So yeah, this allows you to just control basically which phase you're in. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's the best phase, but it's probably definitely going to give you the most performance. I try to balance it, but yeah, I don't know. All right, guys, well, that's everything to showcase, I guess. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and be sure to leave me your feedback down in the comments. Again, it is the Tesseract Mod. I know I forgot to say it, so I'm going to have to do some weird insert, but yeah, hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys all in the next video. Bye-bye.